All right, what's up, everybody? It's Eddie Garola here from Popcorn Reef. Welcome to episode 2 of our show. I'm glad you made it through the first one. We're going to do, like I said before, we're doing sub-series within the show. So today is our first ever episode of Movies and Sunsets, which is going to be Southern California and definitely San Diego specific stuff. We're going to have local people on the show. It might be just local people just here in town that we wanted to talk to. We're also going to have a dedicated segment. We're going to have a local business owner, local artist, somebody here that's making noise in the community. We're going to talk to them about movies. We're also going to talk to them just about their creativity and how they got started on their journey and what they're doing to contribute to San Diego. So still a movie podcast, still Popcorn Reef. We're still talking about our stuff too, but this is very, dialed in for San Diego. And then maybe we'll get some other folks from Orange County and LA County going to melt it in here at some point. But for our first guest, we're going to have Manny B, who's also the producer of the show and is behind the camera right now. Other than doing the Movie Manny podcast, which you should absolutely check out as well, he is one half of Loka over in Barrio Logan. Him and his wife Claudia do slow fashion, and they do all sorts of stuff where you can come into the store, experience what sewing's like, learn about it, and also experience Claudia's fashion and experience Manny's passions, which are a lot of the social media and a lot of the video and the imagery that you see behind the brand itself. So we're going to be talking about Loka, how they got everything launched artistically and as a business. And then we're going to be talking to Manny about movies too, because why not? Before all that, we want to talk about the next screening we've got coming up here in San Diego. On March 13th, we've got Roadhouse coming at the Adams Avenue Theater. And I was thinking of what we're going to say, what we're going to talk about for Roadhouse. We did extensive stuff last time with the other shows we got here. And I don't know if you guys haven't seen Roadhouse before. I feel like everyone already has. So I don't know if I need to get into a giant description of what the film is. But honestly, it's just one of my favorite movies of all time. And I think it's one of the coolest, without question. I don't think I need to explain it. It's one of the coolest action movies, coolest action comedies ever made. And we've got the remake that is coming out as well on the horizon. And I think that's been pretty well regarded as far as the buzz about it. But to me, Roadhouse is always going to be Patrick Swayze, director Rowdy Harrington, Joel Silver as the producer, and a lot of ass kicking and a lot of wisecracking jokes, and Sam Elliott being as cool as he can be too. So if you haven't seen Roadhouse before for some reason, then you definitely need to come and join us. We want you to come and bring like a bar brawl ready outfit, come in boots and jeans or whatever you want to do with that, or bring the sleepover stuff. We're still trying to get more people to bring their own chairs. A lot of people brought those for the first few sleepovers we've had at the Adams Avenue Theater, and we had nobody bring chairs for the society show. So if you guys don't want to bring your own chairs, let us know and we'll stop doing it. But as of now, we're encouraging you to bring your own chairs as well. That's going to be coming up March 13th at the Adams Avenue Theater. We've also got Switchblade Sisters and the Mothers coming up at the 10th Avenue Arts Center on March 20th. If you want a big description about what those movies are all about, check out the first episode of the Popcorn Reef show, because I spent like 10 minutes talking about all of them. But two of my favorite Grindhouse movies of all time. And we can't wait to keep bringing you that Grindhouse, stuff you've never heard of before, or if you have heard of, you've never seen it in a theater before stuff. That's what we're doing at the 10th Avenue Arts Center. So please come down, check it out. It's an amazing spot. Immerse yourself in the screen there and watch some really, really wild shit with us. We'll be back in just a second with Manny B from Loka, the Movie Manny podcast, and the Popcorn Reef show. But first, here's the trailer for Roadhouse.
Can I buy you guys a drink? Guess not.
Patrick Swayze is
Dalton.
I thought you'd be bigger.
Opinions vary.
When he's around, anything can happen.
How does a guy like you end up a bouncer?
Just lucky, I guess.
And usually does.
If somebody gets in your face, I want you to be nice.
Don't be rude! Ask him to walk, but be nice. Help this gentleman to the door. Until it's time to not be nice.
So says the fighting philosopher.
He may be hard to handle.
I keep talking, you're gonna go off thinking I'm a nice guy.
I know you're not a nice guy.
But he's easy to like.
What's the matter, Dalton? Don't you like women?
The worst I ever had was wonderful.
He's not what you'd expect.
I thought you'd be bigger.
But there's one thing you can count on. He's the best friend a good time ever had.
Aren't you guys tired?
Doc, I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead.
This is my town. I'm not afraid of him. I guess you'll be having that fire sale now, all right?
You got your hands full, kid.
I just think I'm looking at a dead man.
Patrick Swayze,
For that line of work, I thought you'd be bigger.
Gee, I've never heard that before.
Roadhouse.
We're back on the Popcorn Reef Show with our first guest, who's also the producer of the show, for full disclosure, Manny B from So Loka and the Movie Manny podcast. You'll probably recognize him from when I was on the first episode of the Movie Manny podcast.
Yes, yes.
And that's how we kind of started working together on this idea for this show, too. So
Yeah.
I figured it would just be perfect to have Manny on first, and give you guys a taste of what we're going to be doing here, where we talk to local business owners and local artists, because Manny is both.
And I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much. Once again, this is awesome. This is super cool. Filming the Popcorn Reef show. This is so fucking awesome, So
Dude, I love it. And we're here in So Loka Studios.
yes.
Yes.
This is our makeshift studios, but it's always a growing process.
It is. And we've already grown from the first episode. So.
Fuck yeah. And that's the exciting part, to see like little incremental growth from episode to episode, from screening to screening. It's always on that journey of getting better and better and better.
Totally. Okay, so let's jump right into it, man.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
As the interviewee, let's see.
Yes.
So Loka, if you guys don't know, is an awesome slow fashion studio in Barrio Logan. And Manny and his wife Claudia run this thing together. Claudia is the artist and the fashion designer.
Yes.
And Manny does a lot of the behind the scenes work, but one of the things that he does artistically is he does all the social media for So Loka. He does a lot of the images that you see on the flyers and all that, and kind of has created a bit of the brand of So Loka. And I guess my first question is, especially with an artistic business, how do you find the balance between coming up with something that sells and something that is what you want to do artistically? And that's a question for you as the guy doing the imagery of everything, and for Claudia as creating what she wants to create.
100%. I would say there's no exact formula. Still trying to figure that out. I think that's the constant struggle of basically trying to rein each other in, of always, thinking of asking that extra question of like, well, how will it be received and stuff like that. And I don't even know if that's always the best formula. I have sometimes tried to, cater to a crowd or something like, oh, we're going to this event, let's make this because it will sell. And I've come out of that event with egg all over my face. I was completely wrong. And the stuff that we thought was too outside of the box or too edgy or they wouldn't get it, that was the stuff that sold. So it's not, and
that's the stuff you guys wanted to do more too.
Exactly, and that's the stuff that we wanted to do more. But say we got booked for an event or a certain venue, and we're like, well, this is a different crowd than we're used to. Maybe we should kind of cater to more what they want, and we'll do better. But that wasn't always the formula. Creating stuff just because it's gonna sell, it's never worked for us in the past.
That's been the formula I've been sticking to with Popcorn Reef so far too, is like, if I'm gonna bomb on a show, at least it's the show I wanted to put on.
Exactly.
That's kind of the formula that I've been going for, and we've had great success. We've had some not so great successes, but every one of them has at least been something that I genuinely wanted to show and put the effort into, because it's, it can be a lot easier to make money doing other things. I think it's probably the other
Exactly, but what you're doing is how you build a brand. Because it's very specific, and it's you start creating boundaries around it of what is Popcorn Reef, what's not Popcorn Reef.
A perfect example of that coming to life is what you guys just did right now, which is you have an exhibit at the San Diego International Airport. Yeah. And it's exactly the stuff Claudia wanted to put out, and is a tribute to her heritage as well, right?
Yeah. It tells a story.
A mainstream thing, right? That you're in the fucking airport.
I know.
But it's also exactly So Loka as its brand and at its core.
100%. But I do think it took about 7-8 years to get to that, to finally have that little bit of thing, because there is a lot of, over the years, of searching, of constantly trying to cater to the customer. What do they want? How do we keep this business going? And it took a real momentous event in our life to really have a change of thinking and be like, I am going to singularly focus on what makes me happy and put it out there and just see what happens. And that was around 2020 era, and we haven't looked back since. And just keeping that mindset of just like, you know, the weirder the better, as long as you like it, as long as it's something she would wear that she can vouch for.
Yeah.
And not worried about whether if we do this to it and it looks a little weird, will it sell? Will that hinder it from selling? You know, because that is the mindset that kept us in the mud for so long, like spinning our tires in the mud of just trying to serve a customer base. It was unpredictable. We can't predict all that. Only thing we can predict is whether our own taste of whether we like it or not.
Right.
And then that's all we could do. And if it looks good to us, we'll put it on the rack. And then we have to hope and have faith that somebody else will see it like we see it.
Absolutely. Can you tell us what that moment was back in 2020? Was it COVID related?
It was COVID.
Or it's just like, hey, fuck it, we're doing exactly what we want from now on? Or
yeah, no, it was COVID related because, well, it was even pre-COVID. Like if you start listening, we had like our Skills Pay Bills podcast, which we started probably a few months before COVID, you know, and it was really for Claudia just to get on the microphone and just kind of vent a little bit about what she was kind of experiencing because she was frustrated. Like she is the designer she is now. She was back then, but she was just up to her head and just tailoring and fixing holes in people's pants. You could listen back to those podcasts now and just hear how frustrated she was. She was like, I want to sew for myself. I want to sew for myself. And we just didn't know how to do it. Like how to, you know, we had so much tailoring business and so many people backed up. There was no time for a break to even, to like, how do we shift this business? Even if we wanted to, it seemed like such a fantasy. But when everything had to stop for that amount of time and there was no businesses open, it was
kind of just realigned things.
It just reshuffled things for us to where she was like, let's just, if now or never, let's try to put it out now. Let me try to put out my clothing now. It's a clothing brand. We're switching up. People are going to message us about tailoring and we're going to tell them no. And we're going to say it's because, you know, we had to switch our... Exactly. and we did that. And it was, and a lot of people messaged us and we had to say no to so many people. And to us, it was just like, and me at least,
that's really inspiring. It's like, hey, okay.
I'm not going to take any credit for that though, because I'm the person in Claudia's ear being like, oh my God, what about we're missing out on this. And she actually had to silence me. And because I'm a little bit more of that side of my brain where it's like, okay, how are these bills? How are we paying all these bills? Where's our thing? Where's like a little bit more focused on that part where she is definitely more free flowing. Like it's going to work out in the end. She's like, why are you tripping? It's going to work out in the end. It's going to work out. But it's been a constant me over anxious personality of like, oh my God, to her, like totally not anxious. And I think sometimes if we meet in the middle, we can find a good equilibrium kind of thing. But believe me, it's still a work in progress. I mean, it was in the beginning trying to work together. It's always a push and pull. It's always a push and pull because we all have our taste and we all, you know, in a way want to be our own type of artist, you know? So it's tough, but you have to find your role in the business and then you have to like define that and then just basically stay in your lane. And she does her thing well, I do my thing well. And once we figured out that part, it's been very blissful.
Well, tell us about, you know, on the film side, as you have that push and pull of creating and being a technical guy. You went to film school. You're using your creativity to put the Loka brand, give people an image, and give something to connect with on social media and other channels. You know, tell me about that side of yourself. Like, is there an internal struggle? And I know there is with me when I'm doing creative stuff, like of being practical versus and what do you do to kind of tame that?
I'm trying to like stay true to myself in a way, but I'm also trying to adapt more because I've been so resistant to like, you know, I guess just how I make videos and stuff like that. Like in the beginning, I wanted all my videos to be super long, and Claudia's like, no, they need to be shorter. And it's like, you know, and how to like make things shorter and be okay with that, you know, because for me, it's not, that's like, what's the point of making a 15-second video? Like for me, it's disposable. Sometimes, at least that's in my mind. I feel like, oh, some of these things are so disposable, and it's like, why not make something a little bit more epic, a little bit more this and this and this? But there's not always eyeballs for that, and it's not always what will help sell for the business. So it's like,
But it is what you would probably resonate with if you were the customer.
yes, and like if you look at some of our YouTube videos when we first started So Loka, like I made like a 6-minute short film called Seamstress on the Edge, and it's on YouTube, and it's about Claudia, and that was my like marketing for her, and she's just like, this is not helping at all.
I want to see that. It sounds cool. But...
It's cool. It was cool, but it's like her ripping up bills and just getting so frustrated. And it was like, she's like, yeah, that's a cool little artsy thing you did, but it's not like marketing. Yeah. And I had to figure out like there's a difference. Like she's like, we have to create things that inspire people to like check out the website and be involved in the clothing and all this stuff, because she's like, at the end of the day, this is a business too. So it's like, how do we marry the two, where it's like, yes, you still could feel like you're getting your creative juices flowing, you don't feel like you feel like you're doing something creative, but then you also have a mission and know that you're doing this for a purpose, because hey, this is like how we live.
Right, totally. And are you pursuing, like, because I didn't even know this, like, do you want to direct your own movie? Is there like, what are you pursuing that's just like, hey, I'm doing this just for the art, I have these skills, but I'm now, hey, this is me?
I would, and I've talked about this, to Claudia so much, and I haven't talked about this on the podcast yet. And I've recorded.
Should we
No, I've recorded it a couple of times, and I've actually deleted it. And I got rid of it because it's a little bit embarrassing, and every time I put it out there, it's kind of like,
we'll
I feel.
See if it makes the cut.
Well,
here.
yeah, no,
we're recording the fucking thing. We'll
the fact that I created the Seamstress on the Edge. I hired even a cinematographer to help me. I paid, all this stuff. And then I never released it. My whole goal was put it in a film festival, right? So
I need to see this.
Watch it first. Okay.
But,
and then also, I got my friend Sean, which me and you had talked about before. He's the kid that I drove out to California with, and he ended up being a writer and stuff. But he came down here. I actually hired him, and he basically was the main actor of the short I created. I hired another actress. Like I said, this was like 2015. I spent money on it. Our money. Me and Claudia, like I spent like our So Loka money on this thing. I created it. Yeah. And I just wasn't happy with it in the end. Like I shelved it.
Oh, so
and it's on Sean's YouTube and everything like that, but he never released it. But I look back on it now, I rewatch it, I'm like, why the fuck why didn't I release it? Like, what is the hang up there? So there's been multiple times.
This is Seamstress on the Edge?
No, Seamstress on the Edge.
That has been released.
That hasn't. So Seamstress on the Edge, and then, and when I say released, it wasn't submitted to any like film festivals, which was my original intent. When I created it, was like, there was like a little bit of a thing with it, so there was Seamstress on the Edge, and then there was The Knot. The KNOT, because it was like kind of like a couple aging, and there's a wedding theme and all this kind of stuff in it. But and we filmed it right over here on the Spruce Street Bridge. If you know the Spruce Street Bridge in San Diego, beautiful scenery and everything. We got a guy, or like a '57 Corvette, like a nice car and everything. So
nice, dude.
We put planning into it. There was all this stuff into it. But it's, for me, I have to come to the grips of, I have to overcome and slay that dragon of like creating
showing
something and
other
releasing
people's
it. Yeah, exactly. And not being,
showing your own work.
Just having thicker skin when it comes to criticism, because I think sometimes when you're such a big critic of other things like I am, like I'm a critical person. That when you put something out, it's going to come right back at you, and you just have to have that thick skin.
Okay, then let's do it right now. What's a movie that you've seen recently that you like that a lot of people shit on?
Fuck. I hate to throw the question back at you, but is there a film that critics shitted on that you really loved?
Well, I've seen so much stuff. I'll throw out. I wouldn't say I loved this movie, but recently everyone has been crapping on Madam Web, and I went and I saw that. And although I can understand why people didn't like it, I also enjoyed it in a certain sense, because it actually, it's set in I think it's the late 90s or early 2000s, and I think that it actually felt a lot like movies that were coming out around that time, and they pulled that off. Not necessarily the way it exactly looked or anything, but it's a different world. It was a different world back then when movies like that were coming out, and it actually, by the end of it, I was like, this actually seems like a movie I would have watched when I was like in high school, or not in high school, maybe a little bit before that, and just saw and it was a bit ho hum or whatever. But and I'm not saying that to criticize it either. But I don't see why there has to be this bar for such a that you have to have this extravagant masterpiece every single time. And so I enjoyed the movie, for the most part. Some of it I was it was a little slow or something, but I think that's a good example of something recent.
But if you're a YouTube movie critic, there's nothing better than
cool, then I can pick every little part, and I can do that. But who wants to do that?
And they could put Madam Web in the title, and then when they know they can shit on it, I mean, that's going to be one of their highest viewed things. And I think that's the sad incentive structure of criticism, is that you're more incentivized to shit on a film.
And in today's world, it's like, oh, cool. Now we know that, the 100 people on Rotten Tomatoes said it sucked. Yeah. So now I can start throwing in whatever shit I want to throw in, and I'm not gonna be criticized.
It's a dog pile,
right?
Basically,
exactly.
Yeah. And that's where it kind of gets a little bit, and then everybody has a hot take, about it.
And that's, again, just proving how smart you are.
Exactly.
Right?
That they're just something a little different, that only their brain.
Is this an okay movie if you're sitting on your ass at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday watching HBO? The answer is yes to Madam Web. Yes.
Exactly.
So
I did think of one. When I was a kid, I remember watching that Bruce Willis film Hudson Hawk.
Okay. I love that movie.
And I literally got the Bing Cosby. I made my dad get me there was a song they sing.
I know what you're talking about. When he's cleaning.
Yes, with Danny Aiello, right?
Totally.
And they sing it back, and I became obsessed with that song. And I was like, I was a kid then, so I didn't know that it was being trashed. Like, I didn't know that it was like.
Yeah.
And eventually my dad was like, oh, because I kept renting it. And I was like, oh, I love this song. And I love the kind of zaniness of the movie. I was a kid though, too.
I love that movie.
And then that's the one that when you grow up and you realize, you're like, oh my God, everyone hated this when it came out, But I remember at least being very, very drawn to it.
And I don't know why. Do you think that people hated that when it came out because it was so weird? And that's like wrong because it had like off the wall ideas and it wasn't something you could put into a box.
Exactly. It was a little weird.
So that's wrong.
It uneven. They would probably classify it as, right? Because it was trying to do a bunch of different things and it was fantastical and stuff like that. But I had a good experience with it and fucking,
That's a great example, man.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, there's probably a more recent one. I wish I could dig back to something a little bit more recent, but there is those times where it's like you see something and, I guess I used to have more trust in critics when there was just like one critic I would deal with and I would kind of,
you kind of know they have some more taste to you.
Exactly. I have to really get to know them. Yeah, because then sometimes I could even judge their good reviews in such a way where I'm like, well, okay, I know that he's overblown things before and maybe it's not, so... but at least nowadays, I like going in fresh. Whereas before, I would watch a couple reviews because I would justify it in my mind and be like, well, I want to make sure I'm not, movies are expensive, or I want to make sure this and that. But
that's the other thing too, is like we used to maybe read that because, okay, well, am I going to spend the money to go to the theater? But everything's on streaming. If you're buying the Blu-ray, you're paying the money anyway. And if you're going to the movie theater, I mean, I have the movie passes for AMC and Regal, so it's free, anyway. So the only thing is your time, and that's okay, that's reasonable. But I am a person that doesn't mind wasting 2 hours or something to understand that I saw something that didn't work and understand that, that's me.
But back in the day, it seemed like the movie critics were just like the only other people you could see that were as into movies as you were, kind of thing. At least, like when I saw Gene Siskel and all these other people talk about films like that deeply, like it just. And this was pre-YouTube. Yeah. Now with YouTube, it's just flooded. But I mean, I think that's what initially drew me to the critics in the beginning because it's like, damn, these people really love movies. To talk about it that much.
That makes me feel like a little bad for saying.
No,
because that's cool. That sounds worthwhile.
But they are also, I mean, some of their criticisms were so harsh. When I watch them back, like one of my fun things to do is actually go on YouTube now and just watch all the old Ebert and Siskel's are up there from their very first one to their very last one, and I just watch it for the nostalgia factor, but. Some of their tear aparts, especially Siskel, my God, he could eviscerate. Cold-blooded. But then, it's just, I don't know if
it's fun, too, to read these. I think we talked about this a while ago, too. Like, you can read these reviews, and then it's like, this makes me want to see this shit more.
Even more,
it's like, this is disgusting, terrible. Who would think of something so absurd? And I was like, oh, good. That sounds like something I'd want to see. All right, Manny, just jump in and give us, one of your film recommendations, something you've seen recently that you think, maybe people hadn't heard about or something. Doesn't have to be in theaters right now.
Something that if they have HBO Max, that they could stream for free, or it's available on Blu-ray too. But what I saw recently that I hadn't seen in forever was a film called Smithereens.
I haven't seen this.
Super, super cool film. Directed by the same woman who directed Desperately Seeking Susan.
Oh, fuck.
So this was her movie right before it.
Nice. Okay, I need to watch this because I saw Desperately Seeking Susan for the first time recently.
Yeah.
And I want to see Making Mr. Right as well.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Malkovich, right?
Yeah. And what she captures so well in Smithereens is fucking just New York City, like mid 80s, early 80s, New York City. Just think like the punk scene's dying, but there's still like, it's still there, but it's like, the other 80s music is coming in, but it just follows this character that's just kind of like this girl named Ren who is just not sympathetic at all. She makes all the wrong decisions. She's totally just leading you down a path of destruction, but you're there the whole way to just follow her from one bad decision to the next. But what you're really watching when you're watching that film is New York City. You're watching all the stuff going on in the background. It's
and
just.
You grew up in New York City.
I grew up in New York City. Yeah, okay. We moved when I was 10, but I did grow up. I was born in the Bronx.
80s?
Yeah, 83. I was born in 83.
Okay, so you lived this.
They're imprinted more in my brain because I did leave when I was 10, and I did live in Florida most of my life. So it's kind of, unfortunately, I have to claim Florida. But those first 10 years of just walking by my mom all the time, or through New York City, going the subways,
when it was
and all
really grimy.
Oh my god,
dude! I'm gonna have to check that movie out.
Smithereens, it's fucking awesome. Richard Hell, who I think was a part of Television, one of the original punk bands that played at CBGB. He has one of his only acting roles.
Cool.
In this movie, so you get to see him like on the big screen. He does a great job too, just ultra cool character, and fucking
Manny throwing the recommendation.
Yes, don't expect a happy ending, okay? But just go to see New York, gritty New York City.
Dude, this was awesome, and we're talking movies, and we're talking business, and we're talking San Diego. Thank you so much, Manny.
Fuck yeah, we got to do this again sometime.
Yeah, we got to keep doing it. We'll keep having you on the show. Obviously, he's always behind the camera. We'll have him on the show. But So Loka wise, tell us where people can find out more about So Loka. They can come visit you guys.
Yes,
and what you guys got going on.
Always, you can come to the shop, 2113 Logan Avenue in Barrio Logan. We have a sewing studio in the back, and then we got our clothing store in the front. So that's our little creative hub that you can always find us at. But then also, virtually, you can go to soloka.com. That's where everything lives. All of our products, whenever we create them, we immediately drop them on the website.
Nice.
And the coolest thing that kind of makes us unique in San Diego is that we deliver to anywhere in San Diego. So I'm telling you, we had an order in Carlsbad yesterday. I packed that order up myself. I drove my ass up to Carlsbad, and I delivered it right to their front door because that's what we do.
Nice.
We want people to be able to order a pair of jeans and just have and get them. And it's a nice surprise that we kind of offer that. We have an art show coming up in July. It's a few months away, but it's a Legends Never Die art show. It's a textile art show dedicated to our ancestors. So we're basically going to be using textiles to tell another story, but about Claudia's grandmother and her trip from Guadalajara all the way up to to LA, basically. It was a very kind of, it's a long story, traumatic story. She had long braids, and they had to cut off her braids and everything, and she had to be kind of escorted across the border. And these are all of Claudia's parents, her grandmother, her both parents and everything. So she's really conceptualizing these stories that make her, her parents unique by doing this. She's putting all these stories into clothing and, centering these art shows around it. And we're actually might be even traveling to Guadalajara to actually go back to where her grandma came from and actually
sounds incredible.
Grabbing pieces from the actual place her grandmother was from, visiting these places, reconnecting with these places. So it becomes more than just the art that's created, it's the experience.
You can live through it.
Exactly.
When you're wearing it. That's
100%.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And that's coming up in July, and we're going to be inviting other artists to join us as well, like other textile artists from Tijuana and San Diego to kind of use clothing to tell the story.
We'll, of course, be keeping you updated on Popcorn Reef.
Fuck yeah.
About the shows as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Manny.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome.
This is
And
exciting.
Yeah, we're going to hit you, I guess, with the trailer for Smithereens because I want to watch it too.
Oh, yes, yes.
And we'll be back to wrap everything up in a second. right, everybody, that does it for the second episode of the Popcorn Reef Show, which is our first episode of the Movies and Sunset sub-show of Popcorn Reef. And I want to give a big shout out to Manny B, who's behind the camera right now as well, from So Loka and the Movie Manny podcast. Thank you so much, Manny. You made a great first guest for this sub-show. We'll be back with another episode shortly, which will be another format for you. We hope you like the experiments we're doing with this type of stuff. Leave us feedback. Leave us YouTube comments. Shoot an email to us at eddie@popcornreef.com if you want to tell us anything. Check out the Movie Manny podcast, by the way, as well. Manny does a great job interviewing, does longer form stuff, and has really cool guests on there. We hope you guys keep checking that out as well because he's got a lot of awesome shit going on. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.